Hey everybody, welcome into the back room. I'm Andy Ostroy. Just want to say thank you for listening if you're listening, and we'd love to hear your thoughts if you have any after you listen. So leave us a message at 845-307-7446. You can also email us at backroomandy@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Ostroy. And this is kind of important. If you do listen and you do like, leave a review, because reviews are very important in the podcast world. Very excited today to have as our guest Matt Friend. He's an amazing impressionist. We'll get to him shortly. Do want to just make a special mention of Hurricane Ian. Our hearts do go out to those who've lost family members, lost their homes, their businesses. It's also important to point out that these storms are getting worse and worse. You see that with tornadoes and fires and all kinds of stuff. And there's still a lot of people who not just are election deniers, but they're climate deniers. And I think, we're going to do a show about that at some point, because this is a really important subject. So busy week, sitting here with Matt and Jen. Fun times this week, as always, right?
Yeah, it wasn't as busy as last week, but it was pretty busy.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, a lot of stuff can happen, but if it's not catastrophic, it seems like it's a quiet week. Some special, Trump special, I always find myself wanting to say special masturbator news, but I just said it. Okay, so it's out there. I put it out there. Trump special master news. So just to sort of quickly summarize where we're at this week, as the story keeps changing, Judge Aileen Cannon yesterday reversed Judge Raymond Deary's recent put up or shut up order. Raymond Deary, as you'll recall, is the special master requested by Trump, appointed by Judge Cannon. And this is a guy who is almost 80 years old and has probably over 3 decades of experience on the bench, as opposed to Judge Cannon, who's 41 and has 2 years. And he had given Trump 2 weeks to submit a sworn affidavit specifically identifying the evidence that Trump is out there nonstop claiming that the FBI planted. And that was during the August 8th raid on Mar-a-Lago, his resort down in Florida. Cannon appointed Deary to review the 11,000 documents that were confiscated. And he basically said to Trump, you've got to come into court and justify what you're saying out of court, which is Trump's usual MO. He usually tries his cases in the court of public opinion and then never goes into court and substantiates any of that with evidence, because it would be illegal to do that. The interesting thing here is that because of the difference in experiences between Judge Cannon and Judge Deary, when she reverses his order, which she did yesterday, and said to Trump and his legal team, you don't have to do this. In effect, saying you can continue to say whatever bullshit you want out in the court of public opinion, lie about the FBI, lie about the planted evidence, and you never have to walk into a court and back it up. When she does that, it would be like Harry Styles schooling Mick Jagger, right, on how to be a flamboyant frontman. All right, so I'm just going to leave that there. Roger Stone, our favorite Dick Tracy character, was in the news this week. Let's go to the clip on that.
What they're assuming is that the election will be normal. The election will not be normal. Oh, these are the California results? Sorry, we're not accepting them. We're challenging them in court. If the electors show up at the Electoral College, armed guards will throw them out. I'm the president. You. You're not stealing Florida. You're not stealing Ohio. I'm challenging all of it, and the judges we're going to are judges I appointed. You. You're not stealing the election.
Let's just hope we're celebrating.
Yeah.
I really do suspect it'll still be up in the air. But when that happens, the key thing to do is to claim victory. Possession is 9/10 of the law. No, we won. You. Sorry, over. We won. Yeah. You're wrong. You.
So that's the concept. Has it been pitched to the president?
Yes, it has. I believe the president's for it. The obstacles are these lily-livered, weak-kneed bureaucrats in the White House counsel's office, and now they must be crushed because they've told the president something that's not true.
All right, so I don't want to spend more time than necessary on this asshole, but the important thing is if anybody is out there believing the big lie, believing that this election was legit stolen, all you need to do is listen to Roger Stone and that clip, that little montage, to understand that this was all a plot. This was a manufactured big lie that was created by Trump's team and Trump and force-fed to his base. It was planned from before the election, and there you have it. I mean, he's admitting to it. And so anybody who listens to that and doesn't get angry that they've been completely, utterly duped, I don't know. You're some special kind of moron, in my opinion, but that's me, right? I mean, what do you make of all this? How do people listen to something like that if maybe they're not listening to it, and then still think, oh, this is all real?
Well, Roger Stone has come out and said that it's doctored and it's not really him saying that.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's always everything's doctored. It's fake. Yeah, fake news. Enemy of the people. Jen, any special masturbate or Roger Stone commentary?
I wish I could shed some light. I don't have that much experience with that, Roger Stone special masturbation. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Mitch McConnell was in the news this week. Let's go to that clip.
In every election, every year, this year, past years, it's great to have terrific candidates. We're in a bunch of close races. I think we have a 50-50 shot of getting the Senate back. It's going to be really, really close either way, in my view.
Now, when Mitch McConnell says he's got a 50-50 shot, he thinks it's completely over.
Unfortunately, the polling has gone back and forth. So it seems the Republicans are dependent on two states, Nevada and Georgia. And their Masto in Nevada and Warnock in Georgia are neck and neck with their rivals.
Yeah, Georgia is way tighter than it should be, considering that you have a really smart guy and an absolute moron running against each other.
That's a compliment to
I mean, literally,
the moron.
Herschel Walker can't string a coherent sentence together. And he's neck and neck with a guy who's brilliant, compassionate. It makes absolutely no sense.
It's incomprehensible in that particular race.
But I do think that, and maybe this is just me, but I don't trust anything Mr. Turkey Neck says. So he says 50-50. To me, it's not 50-50. It can't be 50-50 because he's never honest, right? So who knows? He sounded pretty scared to me. Our favorite Republican, Liz Cheney, was in the news this week. Let's go to that clip.
I'm going to make sure Donald Trump, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure he's not the nominee. And if he is the nominee, I won't be a Republican. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that Kari Lake is not elected.
Does that include campaigning for Democrats if that's what it takes?
Yes.
And if we do happen to have those Trump supporters out there listening, as I mentioned before, listen to those two clips, because that's what you call putting country before party. She does it again and again and again. She clearly, obviously, risked her career, having just recently lost her congressional seat. And she's put her life in danger. And who knows what the future holds for Liz Cheney. Hopefully, one thing in the future for Liz Cheney is to come on this podcast. And I haven't given up. Liz, if you're out there, please, let's do this. I'm your number one fan on the left side of the room. But time and again, this is what she's doing. And imagine if there were more Republicans like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger doing that. We would be in a totally different place in this country. Also, what came as a shock to many on the left this week, our friend, the demonic Ginny Thomas, took her shiny, bright, satanic smile into the halls of Congress to testify before the January 6th committee. Many people felt that was never going to happen. She did it. And she was like, fuck it, I'm going to go in there, and I'm still going to say this election was stolen. So I don't know why you guys want me in there. But apparently, if you listen to Chairman Benny Thomas and others, Jamie Raskin, apparently she delivered some interesting, valuable pieces of information,
Not under oath.
Not under oath, correct. But stuff that they plan to potentially use during the next hearing, which was canceled because of Hurricane Ian. But just the idea that this woman is married to a Supreme Court justice who was the sole dissenting vote in the case before the court where they were ruling on whether texts, Mark Meadows texts and Ginny Thomas texts, should be provided. I mean, it's just mind-numbing.
And according to her interview, they don't talk about that at all. They don't talk about cases ever.
No.
Just like most marriages.
Yes. Thank you for pointing that out, Jen.
You don't have to talk about anything real and relevant.
Married people don't and shouldn't. No. Should not talk about anything. They should never talk. Should never really hang out. And the marriages will probably last a lot longer that way.
And there you go.
Limit the interaction.
Correct.
That's the secret to
and her husband is not interested in anything political.
At all.
Yeah. No. But he happened to have just voted. Being the lone dissenting vote.
Coincidence, obviously.
Last but not least, my favorite gal of all gals, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Her husband filed for divorce. I can't even do this with a straight face. He filed for divorce this week, claiming that their marriage, shockingly so, was irretrievably broken. So for all you, again, for the Trumpsters out there listening to this podcast, Madge is single now. She's single. She's out there. She's on the market, which got me thinking, what would her dating app profile, what would her Bumble profile be like? 48-year-old batshit crazy gun-toting Georgia peach obsessed with Donald Trump, Jewish space lasers, and gazpacho police seeks racist insurrectionist mensch equally comfortable with violently storming the Capitol or just chilling at home with Netflix and Jack Daniels. Guys, get in line quickly because she's not gonna be free for long. Okay, that kind of quality woman is gonna get snapped up. So
it's probably too late already.
Yeah, and she's like, she's probably got a prompt that's like, election deniers a plus. If you're hyping, I'm swiping. Anyway, there you go, fellas. She's single. Very excited for today's guest. He is Matt Friend. He is a 24-year-old phenom, in my opinion. 24-year-old comedian, actor, impressionist. He's got 700,000 followers on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. He's appeared everywhere from The Today Show and Jimmy Kimmel Live to Good Day LA. He does over 250 showbiz and political impressions. He's won Kenan Thompson's Ultimate Comedy Experience at Caroline's on Broadway, performed stand-up across the country, and was just selected to headline at The Stand for the 2022 New York Comedy Festival. He's literally blowing up on the internet. I don't know where he came from, but we're going to find out. Matt, welcome into the back room.
It is so good to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're quite welcome. It's I can't tell you how excited I've been to do this with you this week. So I was going to say that, let's talk about the young Matt Friend, but you're still the young Matt Friend. You're only 24. So we're going to go back to the really, really semi-embryonic Matt Friend. And so I heard a story that you tell that Austin Powers has the film Austin Powers, which, by the way, along with Ace Ventura and Pee-wee's Big Adventure, are three of the best films ever made. But that film was your inspiration when you were 4 years old, and you started doing impressions after watching that film. That's a true story?
Yeah, no, it's entirely true. I think it was like my dad's birthday party at my childhood home, and they wanted to find a way to get me to shut up, I think. So they finally gave in and allowed me to watch this movie. I don't know if people remember, but the DVD of the first film was very bright, and it was just very exciting for a little kid to see. So I was very intrigued by it for whatever reason, and they allowed me to watch it. And from then on, I kind of became mesmerized by it. And I remember actually that party, I was asking all of my parents' friends if I made them randy. I had no clue what the hell I was talking about, but still.
And so did you shot out of a rocket at that point? Did you become obsessed with doing impressions going forward after watching that film? Was that your start?
I was shot out of a rocket. That I like that. I like describing it that way. Yes. From then on, yeah. I mean, I kind of just became very obsessed at this young age after that movie. Now I can call it a journey, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. But I grew up with YouTube. So I had all this information kind of at my fingertips, and I was looking up every Johnny Carson, Ed Sullivan, Don Rickles, Rich Little clip that I could find. I become very interested in like old show business for whatever reason. Seeing even like young George Carlin appearances. That's how I first discovered George Carlin, by the way, the young, cleaned up version of him on the Ed Sullivan Show. So I don't know why it happened, but I just was really into comedy at that young age.
Well, you mentioned Rich Little, and I was going to ask you who really served as your idols when you were younger and on that rocket. You know, back in the day, I'm just slightly little bit older than you, but besides Rich Little, we had Frank Gorshin and John Biner. And then moving into the 80s and beyond, it was like Eddie Murphy and Jim Carrey, Dana Carvey, all the SNL people, Phil Hartman, Tina Fey, Kate McKinnon, more recent, Maya Rudolph, Jay Farrow, Bill Hader, Chloe Fineman. Like, there are people that are so good. Who did you look at when you were, in the single digits and then in your teen years? And then who do you look at today as like great impressionists?
Well, first of all, that's how I get dates. I just say, "Hey, you ever heard of Frank Gorshin?" Yeah, that's what the young kids like these days.
Wait. You don't use your Trump voice to pick up women? Because I hear that he's very good with the women.
Excuse me. When you're a star, they let you do it, right? You can do anything. Well, we're going to get over that and do another discussion, right, Henny?
But anyways, so you got me started. You can't do that. That's a problem. But
by the way, I could listen to that all day. Seriously.
Well, I appreciate that. And we're going to circle back. But anyways, I think, for me, the big inspirations as a kid, Seth MacFarlane's always been a really big one in my life. I loved Family Guy as a kid. And in addition to just that show, I just love his style of comedy. In Family Guy, there's cutaway humor. I just always really loved that. Like when Peter would set something up and then it would cut away to something quickly. And also the musicality and kind of rhythm to the show and the characters of that show. I really loved that. Bill Hader is a big one for me too. Phil Hartman as well. Dana Carvey, like you said. Fallon, of course. All these people I think have had a huge influence. Especially Hank Azaria, with his voice and character work. He was actually my dad's roommate in college. Fun fact. So he kind of got me very inspired at a very young age as well. I think he had a huge influence on me too. But and it started, like I said, watching these Carson, and then it kind of me discovering somewhat modern SNL people, Phil Hartman, who's in my repertoire of voices as well, which the kids might not remember. And then now, of course, Hader, and there's just so many. Yeah.
So let's get to Trump, because your Trump it's transcendent. It is beyond. You're more Trump than Trump, without deviating from Trump. Like, if somebody came and said to Donald Trump, "You need to do this. You need to sound better," like, you're that version. You're you're actually him. It's unbelievable.
I do. Yeah, I'm that version without exaggerating how big my apartment is. But yeah,
or anything else is exaggerated on you. But you nail the tone, the vocal cadence, the syncopation, the rhythms, his mannerisms, the shoulder moves, the head bobbing, every tick. The hands, like the verbal non sequiturs, like it's literally Trump. How do you do that? It's crazy.
Well, you were asking about inspirations before. Like, my goal in my comedy is I try to go for vocal and physical accuracy as close to 100% as possible, and then infuse that with my own comedic take. Because, like, Rich Little, as an example, he was doing comedy, but he was mainly doing impressions. Like, that was kind of the thing, without adding much of his own kind of version onto it. And I kind of try to go for the accuracy of Rich Little and merge that with kind of the comedic element of like Phil Hartman, Dana Carvey. So then I'm kind of just trying to bridge the gap between impressions and comedy.
But with the Trump thing, it's evolved, right? Because it started in a very interesting way. So what I did was I looked at the voice, and it's evolved like no one's ever seen. And what you do is you analyze different people. I have a bit that I do in the clubs that you're going to love this, Andy. You're going to love this. It's going to be better than Phineas. You can tell him that, right? And we have this bit in the clubs that we do where I talk about Donald Trump analyzing different impressions of him. So basically what he does is he says, Alec Baldwin does me, and it's so disgusting. It sounds nothing like me, right? He's like, we've got a great show. It's going to be fantastic. Boopity, 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 bah. I don't sound like that. Then you have Stephen Colbert. Colbert does me. He's a lying dog. He's a liberal elite. He does this. He's like, I know, a dot, 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 a dot, dot, a dot, dot, dot. And I don't say dot, dot, dot. And then you have Jimmy Fallon, who's pathetic and weak, right? Fallon does this. He's like, okay, we're rolling. Okay, I'm going to talk about this fake news. I don't even say fake news that much. So it's an analysis, and it's a beautiful thing. And thank you for the kind words. It's beautiful.
I loved your video where you did Trump critiquing Jamie Foxx doing Trump. That was brilliant.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, that he was amazing too. He was really, really great. And I got to meet him. I met him randomly just at the U.S. Open, and he was there, and he had seen my videos, and it was hilarious. He's fantastic.
When you guys, my bit. I was going to say, when you meet someone who does Trump, is it become like an 80s rap-off? Like, do you guys just start doing your Trump together?
Yeah. I think that's kind of what happens. We just pretend we're in the Access Hollywood bus, and we just start going at it. My bit on Trump is, if you want it for your listeners, the secret to a Trump impression, all you really have to do is, whenever you're telling a story, just mispronounce all the main characters' names and all the key words in the story. So, like, this is how I imagine Trump would describe the plot of Harry Potter. He'd be like, here's the deal. There was this boy wizard, and his name was Harry Potter, okay? The guy was a disaster, believe me, and I'll tell you what, he befriended these two losers. They were called Rune and Hermione. They were so nasty, right? And the headmaster's name was Albus Dumbledore. He might have been gay. A lot of people are saying it, but that's another subject. And you look at the writer, J.K. Rowling, who has one of the most gorgeous Twitter feeds anybody's ever seen. Thank you very much. Thank you. So you got the rhythm. There you go.
By the way, I meant to say this earlier. I've been watching Impressionists literally since I was like 10, back in 1969. And okay. And this is not bullshit. I think you are probably the best I have ever seen. And I'm not talking about just Trump, but I'm talking about everything you do. You're only 24, which is phenomenal that you can do what you do at 24. It's frightening to think about what you're going to be like at 34. But you are that good. With Trump, you're being modest. Like, anybody could say, oh, we're going to mispronounce a name and be funny, Trump. But the voice, I want to know, was it easy for you at the beginning to do him? Like, did you spend 3 months going, God damn it, I can't do Trump, and then finally there was that breakthrough? Or was he easy from the get-go?
I traveled to Moscow. I got all the intelligence I could, and I just wanted to really dig deep and research the character. That's how I did it. No,
did you sleep in the pee-pee bed?
I slept in the pee-pee bed, and excuse me, Andy, I smelled like a dog. I smelled like Rosie O'Donnell, right?
But anyways, it's not me. Again, this is Trump saying this. But no, but, it's evolved. Doing these voices and impressions, like, I can hear it changing. So I have hundreds, maybe thousands of videos of me recording onto my phone, doing a Trump voice, or not even just Trump, just various other impressions from years ago. And I can hear it from 4 years ago. I'm like, that didn't really sound so much like him, but these things can evolve. Like with Obama too, different voices that I do, they evolve. Like with the Barack Obama voice, that has changed dramatically as well. So it's about practicing and speaking into the mirror. And really just annoying the shit out of everybody who's near you by nonstop talking like crazy. So, but it evolves, yeah.
What is the secret to doing Trump today? Like the evolved Trump that you've arrived at? If you had to say it in one or two sentences, what is the secret?
It's stream of conscious. It's just batshit crazy. Like that's the beauty of the impression, especially because I'm doing so much stand-up and live performing. it's really fun to do that on stage because I can really just say whatever the hell I want. And if someone's heckling me, I can put them down as Trump, which is a lot easier to do because I couldn't say "shut your mouth, honey" as myself, but I could as Donald Trump.
You could, but you probably wouldn't have a very good sex life.
Exactly. Yeah. Or career. But I think it's stream of conscious because like if you give me a subject, I can really talk about anything as him. Like if you give me any subject, I can just make shit up. Like we can do a quick one as an example. Like give me a subject.
Okay. How about the special masturbator?
When you talk about the masturbation, and nobody's been doing rubbing and tugging like Don. I have the best technique, and you talk about masturbation, how beautiful it is. And I've done a lot of masturbating. I studied masturbation at Penn. I was in a class with one of the great presidents, Abraham Lincoln, who told me a little secret. He said that when you masturbate, you got to be in the zone and you got to be focusing like hell and tugging and rubbing and you got to squirt. Okay, that's the gorgeous thing. And you talk about that, and it's very good. They're saying that masturbation can reduce the risk of COVID, which is a true thing if you inject that into your system. That's what happens. And you talk about how it's really just affecting the brain, right? And you talk about the brain and the people that are doing it. And NFTs are just one of the great things we've been talking about. And you see what's happening with the Mona Lisa. And it's just one of the paintings. It's very sexy and you masturbate to it. And that's what they're saying. And you're talking about the problem. And that's what you're going to say. But Tish James is a dog and she knows it.
I knew you were going to get to Tish James somehow. Just
happened.
That was brilliant. And this is what I mean about being transcendent. But the voice, you got his essence clearly down. But how do you nail that voice? I've been a frustrated impressionist my whole life. I can do some impressions. I can't see. I tell these guys every week we're here. I can't do him. I could see you do him. I could see other people do him. There's something that my ear, and I have a pretty good ear, it won't let me get in that groove. Is there a trick to getting in his groove? Or is it the throat? Like I don't know.
It's there's a lot of the trick, I think it's a very doing impressions. I mean, like comedy, like any other, whatever you want, I call it an art form, or that sounds kind of pretentious, but like whatever you want to call it. For me, it's just because people ask me what's my process behind doing an impression or a voice. I don't really think of it in terms of a process. It's kind of like a personality. I think Don Rickles said comedy is a personality, and it's true. I mean, it's like I will be walking down the street as Prince Philip from The Crown. Like I'll be walking and I'll just have my arms behind my back and it's, oh my God, the sky is gorgeous today. Yes, ibble do. Yes, that's great. And it just kind of, I'm like talking to myself, not in a psychotic way, because that would really be problematic, but it kind of just happens. And this was the obsession that I had just at a young age, just watching TV shows and movies. And I just my sister recently called me a glorified parrot. So that's kind of what I am, I guess.
Well,
but
that's a good way to put it.
The other important thing too, though, at least for what I'm trying to do, is it has to have a substance too, because I'm a comedian, not just doing impressions. So like when I first started doing performing, I would just do some voices and that was a cute thing and some talent or whatever. And that was it. But now the writing of it, there has to be substance behind it. And that's what makes it even better.
Do you have any improv background? I
did a bunch of classes like at Second City and Improv Olympic. And I grew up in Chicago, right near Second City, about 5 minutes away. So I did some of that when I was younger, a little bit in college, but mainly my stuff is stand-up, and that's kind of how I'm coming up and through social media.
Because unless you're a chronic masturbator, that bit you did before, off the top of your head, no pun intended, to me sounded like you had some improv background, Well,
there's improv, and that's true. Yeah, it happened. I think, I mean, improv, that's kind of what I do on stage too, though, as well, because I'm doing a lot of crowd work these days and sometimes writing on stage. So... That's definitely a strength of mine for sure. I think
you got some, the Trump space. There's some competition. Everybody's great. Everybody has their own interpretation of Trump. You mentioned Alec Baldwin before, which is he's like to me as a viewer, he's more like a grossly exaggerated piece of performance art. Like he's taken it to a fantasy level. Then you have Anthony Adamanek, who took Trump and made him kind of like a silly buffoon on his president show. James Austin Johnson, who's great, who's on SNL. He's described his process as being more like channeling like an abstract stream of consciousness. I think the thing that I love so much about your Trump is that it feels like you recognize that Trump, unlike other human beings, is actually a walking abstract. Like he is a walking stream of consciousness. Like you don't have to make up. Like when you the masturbation bit. Like the crazy and ultimately chilling thing about Donald Trump is that you can actually. Like he could be saying that. What you did before about masturbation, it's not a stretch to think that he wouldn't actually do that whole thing. And
it's not a stretch. Yeah, it's not a stretch. It's true.
Yeah, like so you're doing. It's like Trump is like walking material. He is material.
He is. Yeah. No. Well. Yeah. No. For sure. I mean, that's why there's kind of been a Trump boom in comedy. It's like so much of late night is entirely composed of Trump jokes in the monologue. I mean, it's just endless.
Yeah, but I think you're taking it to a different place. You are.
Thank you.
Like thank you. Literally, if he needs like I was going to say body double, but if he needs like like what's that thing that what's his name? The Key and Peele guy who did the Obama
the anger translator.
The anger translator, right?
Yeah, Luthar or whatever the guy's name was.
Right. Do you do any of Trump's mutant offspring?
Any of his kids, you're saying? Is there any white powder anywhere? Maybe that'd make the impression easier. But
let me guess. No, that's Junior you're talking about.
Yeah, I gotta work on those guys.
A big one now actually is Ron DeSantis. So basically, what I found is DeSantis is kind of a version of his offspring as well. He lives in the back of the throat over here, and he kind of plays the accordion too. I know this isn't visual, but he moves his arms in the same way that Donald Trump does. And I actually had a joke recently, which was I was in a comedy club performing in Miami, and the club wasn't full, so I decided we would just send the people I put on the plane into the clubs to fill up the empty seats. That was the strategy.
Yeah, but he's an interesting one too. And he's kind of the closest I can do to his offspring, because DeSantis kind of feels like one of his sons.
I want to ask you, you do DeSantis, and I'm going to ask you in a minute about some other people you do in politics, but are you political? Or do you just watch these guys and to you it's like, oh my God, this is like a wealth of material? Or are you actually sitting there and watching CNN, MSNBC or whatever all day getting really angry like the rest of us?
I mean, I actually went to NYU, and I went to this school called Gallatin at NYU. You kind of like make your own major. And I wrote and studied about the role of satire in society. And it sounds like a very 2020 major. Yes, it does. But my viewpoint is now in comedy, you can't really, I think you have to kind of be political. There's a famous, it's not so famous, but I know it. Johnny Carson was interviewed by Barbara Walters, I think years ago, and she asked him about getting political, and Carson replied, well, why would I want to piss off half my audience? Yeah. I wouldn't want to do that.
Well, it's like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan said, "Hey, Republicans buy sneakers."
Republicans buy, yeah. And Carson said, he was like, his viewpoint was that once a comedian takes a strong view, you get a sense of self-importance or whatever. And I think it's evolved now, though. For me, that's why Colbert, Kimmel, there's a kind of a dominating force there in their comedy in terms of taking a political viewpoint. And I'm very political. I'm very into, my comedy isn't just politics, but I'm very into, what's happening in the country always. And
I think it's pretty clear. You think it's pretty clear, like which side I'm obviously leaning towards, right? Because it's just a lot easier to lampoon Republicans these days because they're terrible for the most part. So, but in terms of the modern Republican Party,
you mentioned Johnny Carson, who you do an amazing Johnny Carson. As a young person who's grown up in the age of TikTok and YouTube and all that, do you kind of sit back and go, "Damn, I wish Johnny Carson and that show was still around and I could go on like the old comics used to, and if Johnny gave you the thumbs up, that was like the holy grail." Like, do you sort of lament like that doesn't happen anymore, that kind of thing?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, it would be very cool to have had that experience, but no, because the way I'm coming up now is actually, I think, even better if you know how to play the game and if you are willing to do that and put in the work. So, before the only way to make it was to do your 5-minute set on Carson. And now I can make a video from my kitchen and get more views than I might have gotten on his show.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that I've been doing, uploading so much content onto social media during the pandemic has led to just so many crazy things for me. Like within the first the first month of the pandemic, Sebastian Maniscalco is one of my favorite comedians, was guest hosting on Jimmy Kimmel. And then he talked about my impression of him on the air. And then like a month later, I was a guest on the Today Show with Hoda and Jenna, and I've done all these different various shows. I'm happy to be here with you now as well, Andy. Thank you for having me.
We're bigger than the Today Show, actually.
That's great. Okay. Well, hello, everybody. What I can tell you is this is Donald John Trump. It's a bit of a surprise to hear me on the back room. Personally, I'm not a backroom guy. I'm more of a grab 'em by the poontang kind of guy, but that's okay. We don't like the back. We like the front because when you're a star, they let you do it. But Andy knows he booked a real talent. He had a lot of people in the past. He had Apatow and Phineas, and he said, we're going to book a real star this time, somebody who grabs them by the puss. I'm not going to finish it. It's a real talent. It's my dear friend, Mr. Matthew Friend. He's a friend to us all, and his rate at Mar-a-Lago is $4 million for a private party. So thank you very much. And Andy's a beautiful guy, and he's a silver fox. He has a beautiful house. And the promo is way too long. He's in upstate New York. The promo was supposed to be 2 seconds, right? But with Trump, it has to be 2 minutes. So enjoy the show. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank
China.
you. Awesome. Thank you for that. Your repertoire of impressions, which goes through politics and show business, is extensive, hundreds. Some of my favorites that you do, Goldblum is like, again, better than Goldblum himself. Your Liev Schreiber is incredible to me. Rami Malek, I could just see you do the face and I'm on the floor like in a puddle of laughter. I think you said you're on record saying your favorite is Jennifer Coolidge. You do Jennifer Coolidge?
That's a fun one these days, yeah.
All right. But you also, I'm just going to run through these real quick. You do Fauci and Bernie Sanders, Mitch McConnell, Ted Cruz, DeSantis you did, Obama you did. Gavin Newsom, I love when you open the shirt. Like, that is just a touch that is brilliant. Howard Stern is crazy. Timothee Chalamet, my teenage daughter loves Timothee Chalamet. Sebastian Maniscalco is funny as hell, and you do a great impression. John Oliver, Paul Giamatti, Tim Cook. Who the hell does Tim Cook? You do Tim Cook. Roger Federer. Like, you do these guys that are like so obscure but amazing. Andy Cohen, which I noticed, by the way, when you do Andy Cohen, there's that similar Trump thing. Like, he goes to the same throaty place. But if you don't mind, can we do a little lightning round of impressions?
Let's do it.
Let's start with your favorite, Jennifer Coolidge.
Oh, God. Oh, fuck. I want to squeeze that microphone you're using and just rub it up against my back. Oh, yeah. That one's tough.
That was pretty funny. Goldblum.
Oh, my golly. Wait a minute. Pitter pat, pitter pat. Yes. I like this podcast. Very sensual experience. Mr. Andy Astray, he's a silver fox, very luxurious creature, very liberal, of course. I'm enjoying your politics, your show. Yes, very good shape. I'm enjoying you enormously, you goblin creature. There may be trouble ahead. Yeah.
Genius. Fauci.
Well, all you need to know is that in order to begin doing this increasingly rare process of the Tony Fauci impersonation, is that when you do it, make sure you're wearing a mask, even if you're in the studio with a mic.
Let's get a little Liev Schreiber and make sure you get enough Boston in there.
That's great. Okay, well, fuck you for saying that. Hi, this is Liev Schreiber. You might recognize my voice from the great show Hard Knocks. And on Ray Donovan, I go a little bit more fucking Boston. Fuck you, Mick. You're a prick. And by the way, because we're on the podcast, you know who you are, the actor who plays my dad, Mick, in the show. I'm not going to say your name, but let's just say you're wrong about the president, the former president. Thank you very much.
Bernie Sanders.
Ho, ho, ho. Mr. Ostroy, it is very good to be here right now. All I can say is we are in the top 10th of 1% of podcasts. We must come together to book more high-profile guests. Sure that you do. Ho, ho, ho.
Let's get a little Howard Stern.
Right. So I got to tell you, I've been waiting for this one. Now, this is unbelievable. I know. When you talk about, now, Andy, this guy's hilarious. When he has guests on the show, it's crazy. He talks to Phineas, and he didn't even ask the guy one of my questions. I wanted to ask this guy. Now, you're a young guy, right? You're making all this music. You have a beautiful girlfriend, but you must be getting so much ass. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could be just tearing up a storm. You're a nice guy. You're grounded, right? You're a grounded guy. But talk to me about the ass. I mean, Robin, this guy's a sexy guy. Hey, now.
Oh my God. I could sit here all day. You're amazing.
The fun thing about Howard, by the way, now that we're on the subject, is that when you do Howard Stern, if you bring it up just a little bit, that's when you get Alan Alda, who's up here in this part of the thread, then you bring it back down and you get Howard Stern.
That's really interesting. I want to ask you about that. Are there other people besides Stern and Alda where, like, if you just amp it up a little or bring it down a little, there's somebody else?
Yeah. Like Milo Ventimiglia from This Is Us and Nicholas Braun from Succession, Cousin Greg. Hey, all right, buddy. Hey, it's Milo Ventimiglia. Hey, big 3-on-3. Hey, Randall. Then you go Nicholas Braun, like, okay, Tom, I don't know.
And then, yeah, well, Tom Wamskamps is over here. Hey, buddy. Hey, cocksock. Fuck off, little one. You know, I have a dick the size of a red sequoia, and I fuck like a bullet train. And then it's Army Hammer, who's over here. You can't really do him anymore because, you know, he's canceled. Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you very much. But anyways, yeah, impressions can morph. It's kind of insane. And now I want to get you down, Andy. I really am motivated.
I'm as nondescript as you come. So I'd be really impressed if you can do it. But how about
yeah.
How about some of how about like De Niro? Do you do a De Niro or a Pacino?
I do. Actually, those are what I like to call the airplane food impressions, because doing a De Niro and a Pacino is like being a stand-up comedian. What's the deal with airplane food? But De Niro,
hooah! Oh, yeah. What more can I say? Oh, can I get a cappuccino, please?
And then De Niro, you have to see the face, but it's kind of like Leo. He's like, pretty good. Fuck you, fucker. I'm looking at you. Anyway, it's tough. That's a tough one.
All right, now everyone has a Christopher Walken. Do you got a Christopher Walken?
Well, very nice. Very great time on the show. What more can I say? It needs a little more cowbell.
All right, Dana Carvey, we mentioned him before. One of the funniest things I ever heard him say was doing each Beatles member.
Oh, my God.
It was brilliant.
Well, yeah, and John Lennon's, John, and Paul, and John's over here, a little bit more on the nasal, in the part of the nose. And then you get Paul, and John, and Paul, and John. Dana came up at a different time. We do the young people, right? That's good.
I'm focused on Austin Butler, the guy who played Elvis. That's what I'm focusing on.
How about Lindsey Graham? Do you do Lindsey Graham?
Lindsey Graham's when I have to work on a little bit. He's got sort of like a weird kind of a Southern vibe. People are wondering like why I'm not married, and why I'm so against LGBTQ. I think it's pretty obvious if you had to guess. I think it's, the thing about Lindsey Graham is that when you bring it over a little bit, you also get Ted Cruz, who's very nasal over here. Cancun Ted. And all I can say is that this radical liberal leftist podcast that Andy is having me on, it makes me sick to my stomach. And you are spewing the lies of the Democrat Party.
Oh, my God. And I'm going to give you a little challenge if you haven't tackled this one yet. Can you do Marjorie Taylor Greene? Who's now single, by the way, in case you're interested.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're single, but if you are, hey.
I'm worried if I do it, I'm going to like combust. So I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to like blow up or something, like just contort into some, like become like some puddle of green goo. Yeah.
Why do you choose some people versus others?
Can you imagine if I just sat back here, reclined in my chair, and said, Andy, I don't choose the impression. The impression chooses me. No, but
you just said
sometimes, because we were talking about process earlier, sometimes I will, if someone like books me for some project and I will have to study and get a voice down, I can figure it out. Male ones are easier, I would say, as opposed to female ones. But I kind of just see what might be happening, a popular TV show or some relevant political figure, like who people are talking about. But that at the same time, I also love doing the niche impressions that no one's really going to necessarily know.
Right. And are there preferred voice types? Like, are there certain tonal qualities you look for, or cadence and rhythms?
Not necessarily. I mean, like, well, sometimes maybe like one with a little bit like a rich depth to it might be easier, but not really, not necessarily.
Who have you tried to do that you just can't do, that you're stumped?
It's funny, we were talking about Phineas. First of all, I heard the episode. It was so great. I'm a big fan of his, and I want to get him down, and I know I'm going to get him down. I'm going to get him down for sure. He's one. I want to get Joe Rogan down, honestly, because if I could do a Howard Stern and Rogan thing, that one is somehow tough for me. I really want to nail him. And let me think who else.
Are there people that you think are so easy to do? Like when I think of Trump, to me, it's like I should be able to do. I can't. Like,
well, let's hear it.
No, I can't. You don't want to hear it. It's a complete embarrassment.
Let's hear 2 seconds of it.
No, okay, I just can't. I can't even give you 2 seconds. I can't.
You sound like a dog, Andy. That's okay, honey. But
I can't. There's something. I don't know whether I just hate him so much that I can't let him into my ears. I don't know what it is, but
that's probably it.
Are there people that you think you start out going, wow, this guy should be easy to do, or this, but I just can't do it?
That's an interesting question. There are sometimes people like figures where like they're so famous or so talked about that I'm like, I don't know how why I'm struggling with the voice.
Like take Phineas, for example, okay?
Yeah.
Like if I was to try to do Phineas's speaking voice, I would think, I don't know, he seems kind of nondescript. He's got a great voice, but the singing voice might be easier because there's like sort of a raspy, like,
Yeah. He says a lot. He's like he's very well spoken, sophisticated,
smart
he knows
guy.
words. He knows words like etymology. Like I think I would have been stumped. I wouldn't know it. Like
he knows words. He uses.
He knows. Phineas has the best words, right? He's got some great words, like no one's seen the words he's got. Billie Eilish, she's a great singer. She is the Ella Fitzgerald of today.
Okay, anyways, here's the problem. Anyway, okay, so once you bring up Trump, you never know what's going to happen. With Phineas, I'm going to circle back to you on that one because I'm gonna nail that one down.
Here's a question that just popped into my head. All right, when you go to like a concert of somebody who's been around for 50 years and they just like Neil Young. I saw Neil Young. All he wanted to do is the new stuff.
Look at my life.
And we were like, Neil, we don't want to hear the new stuff. We want to hear the old stuff.
That's interesting.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you see yourself getting to, because it's clear you really love doing Trump right now. But is there a moment where like people are going to be screaming Freebird at you like 10 years from now, like Trump, and you're like, I'm not doing Trump. I retired Trump.
Well, that's interesting. That's really interesting question. The good news is, I do over 250 impressions and voices, and when I'm doing a full hour of stand-up now, I'm actually doing like an hour at the New York Comedy Festival in November, and Trump isn't a big part of it. Like he's maybe he's like maybe 5 minutes of it is Trump stuff. But I do a lot of that on Twitter and stuff as well. But no, I'm not really going to care. I mean, I enjoy doing it because I think it's like fun and vocally accurate and people are surprised. But there are so many more that I'm doing that, I'm not like necessarily like just like a Trump impersonator at like a someone's birthday party or something.
Yeah, well, so like 10 years from now, when you're doing like 10 nights in a row at Madison Square Garden, like, is your writer gonna be like, I get the blue jelly beans, I don't do Trump?
What's gonna happen is, my writer, we're gonna work up some President Gavin Newsom material, and it'll be very easy because Newsom is kind of like Will Arnett. He's like very rich depth kind of guy, and I love the feud between him and DeSantis. You're like, Ron DeSantos? That's what he calls him, Ron DeSantos? I mean, this guy's a bully. This guy isn't who we are. When you look at California and the state, what we're doing, you look at Florida and how he's a bully. I mean, that's not who we can be as a country. And I love doing him. So I'm evolving. I see who's next in the political spectrum, and that's who I get down. But Trump will always be fun to do, because he's very specific in the way he talks, right? But I was just in Miami and I was doing my Ron DeSantis, so they enjoy that. So these things evolve.
Yeah. And speaking
We're
of Gavin...
skipping over Biden, you might notice, by the way. You know what? Biden's a hard one.
Do you do a Biden?
Listen, folks, come on, man. What are we doing? I got to work. That one's tough. For some reason, I don't know why. I had a joke about that, which is I don't really do a Biden because every time he speaks, it somehow feels muted to me. And it's like, even the State of the Union felt muted. It was strange.
Just say over and over again, and my dad said to me, Joey, like he says that all the time.
And then say, read the prompter. Next line.
Is there, as a 24-year-old, not me, is there anything that's off limits these days in our era of being politically correct? There are the people you can't do. I have a teenage daughter. If I try to do a dialect of another nationality, she just like beats me over the head with a woke stick.
Yeah.
So is there something
that's really interesting
you can't do?
My thinking on it is, in terms of impressions, which is different than just pure stand-up comedy, but in terms of impressions, my belief is if you're doing the voice and you're doing it in a live stand-up act, go for it if it's vocally accurate. Like if it's true to the person, I think then you can do it. Do not do things to make yourself look like the person if you are doing an impression of someone who is not the race or ethnicity that you are. Like it would not be cool ever to do like blackface or something.
Right.
But I do an Obama impression, but I'm doing I'm getting his essence and the vocals and stuff like that. But I think that would not be a cool thing at all, like not okay at all to do something like that. But in terms of what else is off limits, I'm Gen Z and I'm a comedian, and everybody hates my generation in stand-up, but I think because everybody thinks like you can't say anything or whatever, that's what they all think. But I think there might be some truth to that, like where people are getting too maybe offended by just jokes or things that people are saying in comedy clubs. But I think at the same time, if you're just like making fun of, someone's race or something, or just like talking about something along those lines, you're not really being particularly inventive.
Right.
Like you're not really adding anything new. You're just trying to get like a stupid, cheap laugh. So if you're doing that in like a smart, inventive way, which you can do, then I think that can be cool. If that's making sense. I don't know if that's making, but
yeah, no, it makes total sense. It's a different landscape we're traversing these days.
With YouTube and social media, like comedians can make money on their own. And, they can just kind of say what they want and put it out there, and they'll have their fans. It depends on what your style is.
Yeah. Well, the times changed, and for the most part, rightly so. When I was talking with Judd Apatow, I brought up
who?
Judd Apatow. He's a director.
Yeah, Joe. Yeah, I'm joking.
I know.
Yeah.
I was just riffing with you.
Yeah. Bill Hader does a hilarious Judd Apatow impression. He's like, he always sounds like he's sick. He's like, oh, that's funny. Oh, that's funny. I got to work on him too.
Bill Hader, by the way, his brilliance is that he picks people that no one would ever think of, like to do the Dateline guy, Keith Morrison.
Yes.
And then he takes it to a place that is just so funny.
I also do Bill Hader. I do an impression of Bill Hader, actually.
Let's hear it.
So, yeah, I do Bill Hader accepting a compliment, and then he just confuses it with old movie references. Like, and then he has his laughs. It's like,
thank you. Thanks, man. That's really sweet. Really exciting to meet you. And hey, by the way, have you seen On the Waterfront? It's a great movie. One of my favorites. Marlon Brando. So cool. By the way, yeah, From Here to Eternity, great film. I love Frank Sinatra. Really excited to be here. And yeah, when I was on SNL, I was always writing with Mulaney and really making cool stuff. And he's got a nasal. He's got a nasal quality. Yeah, I love Hader.
So, and the thing with Apatow is that we were talking about, how comedy has changed. And I said one of my favorite comic of all time is Richard Pryor. And Pryor has a bit where he imitates he does a Chinese stutterer, a Chinese waiter stuttering, which, if you're sitting and listening to it in 1974, it's funny. But in 2022, can you do that? And the answer is probably no, you can't do that because it's just not, to all the points you mentioned before, it's just not cool to do that. So comedy seems to have changed so much over the years. And it's just be an interesting place to be for a guy like you, at 24 coming up, like navigating through that space, carefully.
Yeah. Like the example you just said, like if I saw like some white guy doing that in a comedy club, like I don't think it would be that funny. Just like from my perspective, like when you see an old clip of it, like maybe in the context where the studio audience is laughing, like it might be funny, but now like the other issue is just everything is just so saturated, like where there's too many people trying to become comedians now, and everybody wants to have the same thing, that we all want to get noticed and be a comedian. So I don't really look at it in terms of like what's okay to say or like being afraid to say something. I just look at it as what are you saying and like what is the substance behind your material, because I think the most important thing is just like being good and like being funny and getting laughs.
Right. Couple more questions for you before we end. Your street encounters, like when you see John Oliver, are you guys like texting each other, like, okay, meet me on the corner of 48th and Madison, or is that completely spur of the moment?
So I've been talking about this in my stand-up. I've been getting to meet a lot of the people I've been impersonating recently, and I met Andy Cohen, John Oliver, Rami Malek, Sebastian Maniscalco, Liev Schreiber, a lot of these guys. And it's been crazy because there was one like week-long period in November last year where I saw 3 of them in like 10 days.
Just walking around the streets of New York.
Andy Cohen, I was walking down the street and I saw this silver fox guy with the tightest short shorts on I'd ever seen. Clearly just finished a workout with his sexy Ukrainian trainer, Stanny, if you know, you know. And he looked at me and I looked at him. And he was in the middle of a selfie and he goes, wait a minute, are you the guy who does me? And I was like, yeah, I am the guy who does you. Yes. He goes, and Howard Stern, right? And I'm like, among others. And he goes, well, let's fire off of it right now. So I take my phone out and what happens next is unbelievable. I whip out the phone and I play Plead the Fifth with him, which is his iconic talk show game from his show, Watch What Happens Live. And I say, Andy, what do you think of this Andy Cohen impression? And Andy goes, I don't have a problem with it. You're young, you're cute, and you're Jewish. Amazing. Yes. And then I post the video on TikTok and I noticed a recurring theme in the comments. To summarize it, they definitely fucked after this. Now I didn't say that. That's the comments, you sick people. But
well, you know what? You could have fucked worse, probably. Sure,
oh my
people
God.
would say that.
Well, so Andy happened, and then John Oliver, we were at the same comedy club one night, and I went up to him after, and we got a video together, and then
Schreiber,
Jeff Goldblum was the best one ever,
right.
Where I was doing impressions of him in the pandemic, of course, doing voices, making videos. And I have a joke, which is that everybody in the pandemic learned to do something, like you learn to make bread or learn to make bread. And in my case, it was learning to make Goldblum. I was just doing videos of Jeff Goldblum doing every activity imaginable. Goldblum and vacuuming, putting on a condom, opening a banana, doing whatever you want. And and he gained awareness of the impression and shared it on social media. It was a video, I think, of Goldblum putting on a face mask. And then I bought tickets to see his show in New York. He was performing with his jazz band, the Mildred Snitzer Orchestra, here in New York. And I bought a ticket to go with my sister, and I messaged with his wife, who said that, you know, they've been laughing at my impression of him, and I didn't know if I was necessarily going to meet him, but I'm sitting there kind of in the second row in the center. This very cool jazzy speakeasy type club in New York. And then after a few minutes, this sensual creature just floats into the room wearing a white tuxedo and silver hair, just looking regal and, you know, just like something you've never seen. And he comes in and the music is playing in the background, the jazz, and he floats onto the stage, scans the crowd with his Goldblum eyes, and he looks around. And then within about a minute and a half, he stares at me and he goes, wait a minute. Oh my golly, wait a minute. Yes, I know you. I know this guy. Wait a minute. I believe this guy. He does very funny impersonations of me and Rami Malek and many other people. Come to the stage for a minute. And then he brings me on stage, and I start doing him to him. I think he was freaked out because I was out Goldbluming him to himself. And I actually had a throat lozenge, which he is a big fan of. For those who don't know, he carries them with him everywhere. And I gave one to him, and then we did a whole thing backstage, and it was crazy. And and then I went to the Jurassic World premiere, and I'm doing him on an upcoming episode of The Simpsons.
Yes,
so.
I was just going to say, speaking of Goldblum, Baby Goldblum.
It's crazy.
Tell us about Baby Goldblum.
It's Jeff Goldblum as a baby. It's like 2 lines, but I'm still very enormously grateful and excited to be on that. It's pretty wild.
So what's next for the young Matt Friend? Has SNL come call? I mean, you got to be on that show. You would be like the best thing in years on that show.
Well, thank you.
What's next for you?
You know, that was always the dream. My old social media handles were Matterday Night Live. I've since changed them. But you know, if that ever happened, that would be really cool, and you know, that would be a dream come true. But can't be married to it. You know, like I'm doing my own thing. Right now I'm doing a lot of stand up. That's the focus. Doing this hour. I think a goal is next year doing a late night set like Tight Five on the Tonight Show.
Mm-hmm.
Doing more voiceover, acting, doing shows in other cities. I was just in Miami, but going to DC and throughout the rest of the country, and probably taping a special. I'm starting to do more kind of hosting type things. I was just at the Emmys a couple weeks ago interviewing celebrities before the Vanity Fair party, and it was great because some of them actually knew who I was, all the Always Sunny guys. So that was very cool. So now it's just kind of incrementally building, and every day I'm just trying to do something, and I'm performing every night, multiple shows a night, just kind of hustling and doing my thing. So we'll see where it leads.
If I were you, I would at this stage I would spend half my day sitting in Starbucks enjoying my anonymity, because I have a feeling that in a few short, maybe a couple of years, you're probably not going to be able to do that anymore. That's my guess, that you're going to be in a much different, bigger place, because someone with your talent, you can't stop it. It's a rocket, it is a rocket. So before I let you go here, we do in the back room really do like to get a window into someone's soul. The cat dog thing is important, but music is even more important. So
yes.
I'd like to ask people who their top 5 artists of all time. You're young, so this is risky. You might not go back beyond 2019. So I'm going to test your knowledge of music here. So
yeah.
Well,
wait for me to move the camera over here. Do you see that portrait, that picture right there?
Frankie, I noticed it before when we first started talking.
I'm an old soul, so I obsessed with Frank Sinatra.
Do you do him?
Completely obsessed. That's actually one that I talk about because no one can do him. I mean,
Right.
I've seen people attempt, but I do Michael Bublé, like, hello, friends, I'm Michael Bublé, and it's so great to be here. Oh, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Like he's different, but Sinatra, that's years of Jack Daniels and pain from Ava Gardner and just being a freak genius. But
Well, why don't you watch
number one.
Joe Piscopo doing Sinatra?
Yeah, Joe. He was a tough guy thing, but
He
no
made it
one
his
can
own.
sing. He can do a little bit of the speaking voice, but in terms of the singing, no one has been able to do it.
Except
It's
Frank
impossible.
Sinatra Jr. Oddly,
No,
sounded
still-
a little bit
still.
like his dad.
Many
little bit.
people are saying that's why he got kidnapped, right?
No, but anyway, it's so niche. But Frank is number one. My favorite Sinatra song is actually no one really ever said it's "Call Me" on the Strangers on the Night album. Not "Call Me Irresponsible," but if you're feeling sad and lonely, there's a service. That song, I love that.
All right, I was just doing drums for you.
Yeah, thank you for the drums. So Frank, you want top 5?
Top 5.
Frank is number 1. Oh my God, this is like impossible. Actually, let me go on my recently played here because this will help me. My music is truly so all over the place. Like I'll be listening to Frank Sinatra, then I'll be listening to Aretha Franklin, then I'll be listening to Def Leppard, and then the Cleveland Show theme song, and then
Rafi.
and then Jack Harlow and Phineas. I do listen to a lot of I do like the big band stuff. Oddly enough, like I do like to hear like a lot of the Seth MacFarlane stuff. Bublé is great, but I love like Coldplay.
Mm-hmm.
I really like I'm working on Chris Martin. Like I love how he answers questions about how he makes songs. It's like the most simple answer. It's ridiculous. Like Howard Stern will be like, so talk to me about Yellow. Where did you come up with that? And Chris will just be like, I was sleeping. Then I went for a pee-pee, and when I peed, the song came out. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, so you made the song when you were urinating? Tell me about. I mean, I was peeing in them, and it sort of just happened, Like it's like insane. Like, so I love Chris Martin. Let me just answer this concisely. Sinatra, I think. Oh God, the Beatles. I'm huge with. Love Stevie Wonder. Marvin Gaye, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons.
Wow.
I'm like all over the place here.
You are an old
I
soul.
really do love it all.
Yeah.
Neil Young, Bob Dylan. I'm kind of all over on that front.
Well,
I mean, yeah.
You just literally you did give us a window into your soul. So thank you.
I do love Phineas. I'm not just saying. I really do. And it's funny because he's commented on a few of my videos throughout the pandemic, and he's a guy I want to tell how much I love his stuff. He's great.
Well, maybe we'll do this with you and Phineas sometime, and you can try to impersonate him, and he can do his thing, and try to do Trump, and it'll be crazy.
Fantastic.
It'll be wacky.
I'll have to get you down before then, but yes.
Good luck getting me down.
Yeah.
You're not going to impersonate this voice. There's nothing to hang on to.
Hey, James Taylor too, by the way. James Taylor is one that I love as well. Yeah, because of my parents.
James Taylor is. I do singing impressions, which I'm not going to do here because I need music. But James Taylor and Bob Dylan are two people I do. So anyway, that's for another time. Matt
and country too. I like country sometimes. Right. Like baby, lock them doors and turn the lights down low.
Can you do what's I got friends and who's that? Garth, right? Isn't that Garth?
Garth Brooks. Yeah, that one.
Who's the guy with the really deep voice? The really
Josh Turner.
No,
that one's Josh Turner. Oh yeah, I get very deep.
A guy like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, thank you so much for doing this. You've been a real trooper, giving us so much of your time. You're incredibly talented. Matt, Jen, my team here, we're all big fans, and it's been a thrill to have you on. We hope you'll come back maybe the day after the election, and we can, celebrate the Democrats keeping the House and the Senate.
I would love to. We can do a little thing after the election. I'm going to be going crazy after that happens on my Instagram. The Matt Friend. So that's where I'll be.
We'll do a little McConnell and Ted Cruz and those guys,
oh my God.
Crying in their
drinks.
Do
a little DeSantis post-Hurricane Ian. We'll see how he handles this.
Yeah. Thanks again, man. This is great.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty. Take care. So there you have it. Episode 18 in the can. I want to thank my co-producer, engineer, and editor, Maddie Rosenberg, our Jane of all trades, Jen Hammoud, for Hamoudi, as I just learned today. Cricket Langell for our logo design. Andy Hollander for our kick-ass music. Patricia Wind and the Epicurean for the Backroom Studio. And a big, big thank you again to our guest, the very talented Matt Friend. So keep your eyes on Washington, Hollywood, and your own backyards, and we hope you'll join us again next time. Have a great week.